Before we get into the techniques on how to debate like a progressive, let's go through the rules of debate when a progressive is involved. I have the right not to be criticized. I have the right to criticize you. I have the right not to be offended. I have the right to offend you. And while we're on the subject of my rights and what I'm entitled to, I have the right not to be sick. I have the right not to pay for my own health benefits. I have the right not to work for the things I want in life. I have the right to be whatever type of burden on society that I want to be. I have the right not to be incarcerated for my crimes. I have the right to resist police. I have the right to wealthy people's money. I have the right to judge you. I have the right not to be judged. My mediocre child has a right to a trophy just for trying. I have the right not to be excluded. I have the right to be unique. I have the right to assault you when you say something I don't agree with. I have the right to say anything I want to you without repercussion. I have the right to use my position in award shows for political propaganda. I have the right to stop you from using award shows for political purposes. I have the right to withhold information that makes me look bad. I have the right to all information about you. I have the right to insert irrelevant agendas into virus relief packages, then accuse my opposition of wanting to hurt American citizens for not passing the ideology-riddled funding. I have the right to insist others wear masks. I have the right to live mask-free. I have a right to riot if I don't like the president. If I like the president, rioters have no right. I have the right to infringe on everyone else's rights, regardless of the Bill of Rights and Constitution. I have the right to stand behind the Constitution and Bill of Rights when it's convenient for my political agenda. I have the right to insist we close down the country to escape a virus when my opposition is in charge. I have the right to insist that we keep the country open when my colleague is in charge. I have the right to silence you if I don't like what you're saying. I have the right to free speech no matter what I'm saying. I have the right to demonize a virus vaccination when I don't like the president. I have the right to promote a virus vaccination as a positive thing when I think the next president is from my political party. I have the right to criticize my country and the freedoms that allow me to do so. I have the right to stop you from criticizing your country. I have the right to dictate how others should live, and I have the right to live however I please. Now that we've gotten that cleared up, here are some techniques on how to debate like a progressive. First, put feelings over facts. You need to push facts as being subjective. Your truth is the truth. Characterization. Instead of debating your opponent's arguments with facts, since you won't have any, question your opponent's character. Associate your opponent with bad things. If your opponent likes vanilla cake, they must be racist. Add to your debate by framing your opponent as being guilty by association. If someone with an undesirable reputation happens to share your opponent's view on something, manipulate the debate by accusing your opponent of the same things that make that other person less desirable. If your opponent likes vanilla cake and Hitler happened to like vanilla cake, push the notion that your opponent is like Hitler since they both like vanilla cake. Let's say the debate is about the dangers of fire, and your opponent says fire is good when used responsibly. You could say that the devil likes fire and thinks it's good. That means you and the devil are alike and share all your thoughts and opinions. I know a progressive wouldn't use the devil, since in order to believe in the devil, you'd have to believe in God, and to most progressives, there is no God, only Google and the government. Our next tool in the progressive debate box of tricks, buzzwords. The left's favorite 3 lines of attack: you're stupid, you're mean, you're corrupt. Next, promote inclusion for all, then create victim groups based on people's identities. Any non-white race, gays, women, trans, illegal aliens, unhealthy fat people, and now virus panic pushers. Then accuse your opponent of dividing people. Insist that your victim groups are entitled to things like safe spaces based on their identity, and nobody else should be allowed in those safe spaces. Then accuse people not in your victim groups of segregation and singling people out based on their identity. As a progressive, we're either oblivious to what we're doing, or we know exactly what we're doing. If anyone from your victim group have been enlightened and don't think anyone's out to get them and they simply want to work for a better life, call them sellouts, or worse, Republican. Since conservatives argue equal treatment for everyone no matter what their identity, we can spin it to seem like they're picking on those victim groups that we've created. Everybody wants sympathy and entitlements, and those victim groups we made will cheerlead for us. My name is Johnny, and I am a suppressed Scandinavian American. Because I made unhealthy choices my entire life, I'm entitled to a handicap placard. Since not every single thing for everyone is equally equal because people are different with different goals and circumstances, we will always have a complaint, and we all know how much people like to complain about what they don't have. When your opponent gives examples that conflict with your statements, say they just can't see it because it's unconscious. Next, change the definition of words. Associate everything to mean racism. Racism used to mean one thing, but now associate things that aren't racist and tack them on, like prejudice, bias, favoritism, but only accuse your opposition of these things. All of your victim groups groups, they get a free pass. Make claims like only white people can be racist. Then accuse your debate opposition of racism, creating resentment and division. What to do if your opponent comes at you with facts. For example, since the Welfare Act was pushed and passed, it raised single-parent households drastically across the board and did nothing to help poverty. To combat this, you need to shift the topic. Say things like, moms make the world go round, and women run the house. It has nothing to do with the issue, but it will sound good and give you something to say without having to have facts about the actual problem. And downplay the importance of families. When your opponent mentions single-parent statistics and how it makes life harder for everyone involved, accuse your conservative opponent of picking on single moms, being a sexist. Might as well throw racist in there too. Which brings me to the straw man. A straw man fallacy occurs when someone takes another person's argument or point, distorts or exaggerates it in some sort of extreme way, and then attacks the extreme distortion as if it's really the claim the first person's making. For example, if your opponent says, pollution from humans contributes to climate change because, your straw man could be, so you think humans are directly responsible for hurricanes and drought? Assume what people are thinking. If you're going to debate as a progressive, this one comes in handy a lot. Transference. If your mom was extremely judgmental to you as a child, and your conservative opponent makes an observation that you feel is judgmental, lash out at your opponent. Projection. This is when you project your guilt onto your opponent. For example, according to history that hasn't been removed yet, the Democratic Party supported slavery, created the KKK, Jim Crow laws, voted against restructuring and against every civil rights bill in history, and even though history shows the party has a horrible racist past, they accuse Republicans as being racist, since conservatives believe that every race is perfectly capable of competing on a level playing field in this day and age. When they propose removing things like affirmative action, you'll have ammo to accuse them of being a racist, even though affirmative action gives privileges to people based on their race. When your opponent points out that the Democrats got caught cheating in the 2016 DNC primary, accuse them of cheating in the election, or just change the subject since conservatives are more passive and typically don't fight dirty. As a progressive, fight dirty and accuse your opponent of having no tolerance for others, then threaten them with violence for having a different point of view. When your opponent accuses you of projection, accuse them of projection. It will really confuse people who aren't educated on the things that you're talking about. Fact suppression. What people don't know won't hurt the progressive. People don't need to know that Lincoln was the first Republican and the party was created as an anti-slavery party, or that no Republican ever owned a slave, period. If those facts get out, make up new facts, like the big party switch, where the evil racist Democrats magically became the evil Republicans of today, and the good Lincoln Republicans suddenly became the good Democrats of today. Some people are bound to believe it until they ask for a list of names, but they won't. As a progressive debater, you won't have to worry about what facts your opposition may bring for long, since it was proposed at this year's DNC convention to remove history. Didn't someone else want to do that too? If we could control information like that, nobody would find out the actual truth of who really caused more problems of the past, so we can blame others for those problems today. They control information in China, and we love the Chinese government. Even when they didn't tell us about a horrible virus that caused more harm to the world by doing so, their government is loaded and in control of everything. And we are too. If anybody criticizes the Chinese government, shift it to make it seem like they're criticizing Chinese people, and because they're Chinese. Next, frame your argument with selective statements like, police shoot unarmed black men all the time. When your conservative opponent counters your claim with statistics showing more whites are shot by cops, and that over 98% of police confrontations occur because the suspect resists or poses a threat in some way, focus on the very few instances where mistakes may have been made. You'll have the progressive press on your side, and they only highlight situations on the 5 o'clock news that helps fuel your narrative. Progressive big tech will suppress any facts that conflict with your truth. When your opposition wants to discuss if there's a connection between blacks committing 70% of violent crime and 70% of black men growing up without a dad, instead of debating the issue with facts, since you have none, make it emotional and accuse your opponent of being a racist for even asking about it. Sure, it has nothing to do with the conversation or proposing any solutions, but we're not here to solve any problems, only create more. Next, we have the double standard. Now, this is really popular amongst progressives and is similar to projection. The double standard is accusing your debate opponent of something that you're also guilty of. Promote that there aren't enough of a certain race in a group. If your opponent mentions that there were no white people in the Macy's parade opening dance number, call them out as racist. If your party loses an election, say they cheated or blame Russia. Make up evidence. Insist that everyone believe you or they're un-American if they don't. If you cheat to win an election, insist that nobody believe it and it's un-American if you do. Call any evidence that proves it a conspiracy, and with the press skipping over the stories that do prove it, nobody will know. Wrap things up with your personal rights, like your right not to be offended and your right not to get a contagious virus that kills 0.1% of those who get it, and insist that the rights of every U.S. citizen can be taken away as long as it helps your political party positioning and agenda. If need be, fall back on character assassination. Call your opponent a Nazi or a fascist because their beliefs are different than yours. Then threaten them with violence, and if they fight back or even defend themselves, condemn that they resorted to violence and say they're so full of hate. Justify that their platform to speak should be removed. Sure, those are fascist tactics, but people are slow and lazy. They won't understand that you're actually a fascist in disguise. Since you've created all of these victim groups that all want sympathy and entitlements, you'll have more support, and you didn't have to verbally bribe them. You emotionally bribe them, and by projecting onto your opponent, you've really blurred the lines of what's right and what's wrong, since nice people possessing facts wouldn't do such a thing. We're debating as a progressive. We have no facts, only feelings.
Everyone likes me and thinks I'm great in my safe space.
My safe space.
People don't judge me and haters don't hate in my safe space.
Your safe space.
Bully-proof windows, troll-safe doors.
If you do not like me, you are not allowed in my safe space.
My safe space. Look and you will see there's a very select crowd in your safe space. My safe space.
People that support me, mixed in with more people that support me and say nice things. Rainbows all around me. There is no shame in my safe space.
My safe space.
Bulletproof windows.
I am going to tear down your safe space. Brick by brick, I shall smash it with glee. You cannot stop me from getting inside. I am cold and I am hard, and my name is Reality.
Oh no, not reality. Somebody stop him.
You can't ruin our lives, Reality.
Our safe space will keep you out.
Rot, we can face almost anything.
But reality, we can do it out. Bulletproof windows.
Troll safe doors. My safe space.
But that's really disrespectful, sir.
Well, because that was disrespectful, and life isn't fair. So if you want my help, you're going to have to deal with the fact that I do disrespect you right now. I do! Say yes, sir, and then shut up!
Yes, sir.
Thank you!
I don't know. Just call it how I see it.